what did y'all think about the ejection? Timothy said that ejection was absolute BS. If you didn't see it, Dre Greenlaw got ejected for a helmet-to-helmet, for a pretty brutal hit on Justin Herbert when Justin Herbert was running the football to the head. Herbert had to come out of the game. Might have saved the Niners points, actually, that Herbert had to come out of the game there. And Chase Daniels' worst fears came true. He had to play. Chase Daniel came out throwing rockets.
Well, when Mike was like, he's been on the team 2 years, I'm like, Mike, did you write that down wrong? I feel like he's been on the team like 5 years. Maybe, I guess he was on the Bears a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Feels like Chase has been there a long time. Maybe it is true.
To me, one of the things that really stood out about the couple things, as someone who tries to know the rules, but I don't call NFL games, John, so I don't know all of the NFL rules. As Tirico, I heard somebody told me a few weeks ago that Tirico reads one chapter of the rule book every week to stay fresh. I was a little, it shows because stuff comes up and he knows it. I was stunned, and I mean stunned, that Dre Greenlaw got ejected from that game. It never crossed my mind that Dre, I don't know if it crossed your mind. It never crossed my mind that Dre Greenlaw was going to get ejected for that hit.
Well, I didn't know you get ejected on the first offense. Usually when that happens, they go, he got his first personal foul conduct, unsportsmanlike conduct. Next one, he's gone.
Right, which means you can yell, you can drop an F-bomb, the ref flags you. I mean, you don't get
exactly.
An F-bomb,
but part of that is, and I thought Tirico did a good job. Now that I know, it makes sense. He reads the book for fun. He got shoved into him, right? I mean, when
Jimmy
you're
Ward
running,
Herbert.
Jimmy Ward shoves Herbert. Like, if that was a college play, is Greenlaw tossed 100%?
That's a good question. My first reaction would have been yes, but I'm not so sure that he I mean, that's a good question. The shove changes things there a little bit, but
I thought
my inclination would be in a college game he probably would get tossed, but I'm not sure.
I get highly offended when
there was not a launch. It was crowned, but there was not a launch, which is one of the indicators in college.
But he left his feet. I thought he
but leaving your feet and launching, they do judge those things a little differently.
Gotcha.
But
I'm anti-throwing people out of the game. You work too hard. No one's trying to hurt anybody, especially when you're not a defenseless runner. Even though I always push back on that, I don't understand how you can play football and be defenseless. Like, everyone knows they're defensive players, like when you're going over the middle. But obviously, he's not considered defenseless in that play. I thought them getting on the phone with New York, talking with Troy Vincent, former player, and then the dog and pony show of keeping Herbert out when he clearly was fine, but they want to show everything with the Tua thing, was one of the biggest CYA NFL, trying to pump their chest. And then, of course, when they come back after halftime, you're thinking well, did they not give him his helmet back? And Rand say no, he's good to go. So it's that whole thing to me was very fake. That really bothered me.
I didn't understand why he was out for more than a play after he'd clearly been evaluated.
Well, I felt like it's like the NFL trying to I'll show you Twitter.
To me, the part that really stood out, while you're still around, the part that really stood out to me was what you said. When I heard Terry McAuley say, I talked to the league, Troy Vincent determined it was an illegal hit, my jaw hit the floor. Wait a second. Troy Vincent determined it was illegal? The guy who's just in the office Monday through Friday in charge of the rules? I know he's in the replay room too. Not your replay official, not your Dean Blandino.
So your argument is, even though he's a former player or whatever, he's just a suit now. He's not he doesn't do this for he's not an official.
I mean, it is his job, but to me, it should be the head referee today is John Middlekoff. The replay official is Guy Haberman. And the two of you together should have to agree if you're going to eject a player, right? My on-field ref and my replay ref. But the idea that
he's eating Chinese chicken salad. He's like, James, toss his ass. He's gone.
On Sunday night, I guess he's only focused on that game. But in the morning window, there's 10 games. It's Troy Vincent, hey fellas, run that play over on TV4 back for me. I think I might want to eject the guy. And part of it is nobody ever gets ejected in the NFL for that hit. Ever. Have you? I honestly been racking my brain. I cannot remember seeing somebody get tossed for that type of hit.
I didn't think it was an injectable play. I get very.
I even think, can I just add this too? I know we don't, when you do these like breakdowns of these plays, you don't talk about intent, but I thought that was one of those, you're like, he was not, because Herbert got pushed from the back. That's not what Dre Greenlaw. Now, I mean, Dre does have a rep. I mean, we will admit that, right? Like he's committed personal foul penalties before. But sorry, you were about to say. I get very.
And it's part of it. It's not going away. I do not need to hear these former referees on television. Whatever they're making.
It's your fault.
What's not? What do you mean?
No, it's your fault.
Why?
Your fault, because the league and the networks have all responded to everybody constantly killing the refs on TV, that they felt an obligation to bring the refs on to explain the rules to people. So I blame you. You should blame yourself for this.
But he's never right. He's wrong a lot. Whenever they like go, what do you think's going to happen? They're always wrong.
Because they're judgment calls.
They always sound so fucking old and archaic, especially Terry.
They're judgment calls.
I can't. Terry just drives me nuts. Terry's the worst. Terry's.
I could remember Mike. Remember what was the guy they had for a year?
He missed. That guy missed all the time too.
What was that guy's name?
The dude that was with Booger. I mean, they were the worst combination in the history of sports.
Carey, Mike Carey.
It's just consistently these guys that sound like they're 78. Whenever they go under the hood, they even go under the hood anymore. Whenever they do,
they bring the camera. Bring it out.
When they bring the camera thing out,
I forgot about the hood.
I miss the hood. That they're like, what do you think here, Mike or Terry? They're always on the wrong side of it. I just don't want to hear their voice. And then always it's just a BP fastball for Tony Romo or Collinsworth. Like, I don't see it that way, Terry, because they're always just seeing it like us sitting on the couch. Like, this is so stupid. And Chris was like, this is crazy. And to me, now they didn't call it, but when Terry came and said that Ray or whoever downed the fucking ball at the 1 yard line, who clearly looks, maybe his foot was it's down in the history of football every single time, whether from Pee-wees to junior high football, the NFL football, the college football, that's always down at the 1 yard line. And he's like, well, letter of the law, that should have been. And then they went, and even Tirico, you could tell, was kind of freaked. And Chris like, Mike, he already ran a play. And Mike's like, yeah, you're right. Because everyone was on edge. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah, that one was crazy.
This is insane. What are you talking about? I hate Terry McAuley. I really do. Not personally.
He just represents something.
Well, I don't like his voice on the broadcast.
Oh, okay.
I really don't. I don't like him chiming in. I want him gone.
My thing is just it's hard when you've got the 10 games going on at once, and these guys are, like, oh, let's bring in Blandino or whatever, and he's trying to watch, and because he needs a minute. What happens in those scenarios is he needs a minute to see the play to form an opinion. But on the standalone games, when they have their own ref expert,
isn't Terry in the booth with those guys?
I think he is, because sometimes Pereira's in the booth. Those guys have an incredible gig, by the way.
They talk like 3 times a game.
There was a game with Pereira not long ago where they're like, let's just show Mike because he hasn't been on today.
What would you guess for 16 weeks of the #1 show in America? Does Terry McAuley clear $1 million?
I wish I knew. I don't know, because I have no point of reference for what he makes for that.
What if you found out he made $1 million?
It wouldn't shock me.
Well, I'd expect it.
I don't know that I'd expect it, but it wouldn't shock me.
He ain't making 75 G's, guy.
No, he's not making 75K. He's not making 75K.
I would guess it's closer to $1 million than it is $4.
I think there are times when you need it, and then there are times where, like, the play at the goal line where. Now, again, I do think there's a lot of just the last thing you want is for it to be a thing after the game, and you had the guy there and you didn't explain it. But, yeah, I think it's here just because there's so many controversial plays all the time. You just need someone to explain rules. But like to your point, so many of them are not rules explanations. It's judgment. It's opinions on judgment calls.